We'll have a public hearing at 6:30 regarding deposits and withdrawals from trust and reserve funds. And we will have a presentation now. Is that you?
No, there is no presentation.
No presentation, okay. The approval of the minutes, both public and non-public, of November 7th, 2022. Do I have a motion regarding those minutes?
Make a motion, we approve both sets of minutes, or all 4 sets of minutes as printed. I believe there's 4, right? 3 non-public and 1 public.
Yes.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, on the board reports. Unfortunately, I was not able to make the last meeting of the budget committee due to the demands of KUA. But I'm sure they had a good time.
Planning board. Basic, like, can I remember? On my laptop, sorry, everyone. I think most of our meeting focused on preparing for town meeting. So there was much discussion about things that we thought might be basic wins to go on the warrant this year, and it's looking more like they got into in-depth discussion and they're now not an easy win necessarily, so we will see how that goes. It was parking, base size.
Yeah, it looks like density, we're
Yeah.
looking at density in the R1 area that is on village sewer. That one looks like it might move forward and the ADU discussion might move forward, but we were looking at a parking discussion. We thought would be an easy win, and we started going down a pretty deep rabbit hole and decided we probably should wait for the zoning rewrite to address parking. So we've been working on those issues.
What is ADU?
Accessory dwelling unit.
Oh, yes.
There's one now in town, and the discussions about allowing 2 on a parcel. See how that comes through.
The idea being, if you had, say, like one in your maybe large home, you would put in a carriage house. Or right where you could do one in each. So, very interesting concept to continue looking at increasing density without necessarily increasing footprint. So, and then I think there was something else that we did with that. Can't be that important. Oh, they don't want to do the deal with the ordinance.
So the short-term rental ordinance will be coming back to the select board.
Sorry.
In other words, the planning board is pushing it back to the select board?
Yeah, they decided that it wasn't a zoning issue and that it would have to be addressed in a different manner. What I had talked to them about going into it was it really depends on how we're going to enforce it. If it's a zoning enforcement against the property owner, or is it a? And I think it kind of mixes both of them together, because if there's tenants in the property, that's not necessarily a property owner's problem, but it could be a tenant problem. So I do believe it needs to be a select board ordinance, so it's coming back our way. But we did ask them, me and Kate, was to read through it good and to push their comments back, so we'd have a little bit of feedback from the land use board before we.
So the Heritage Commission had a nice meeting talking about sort of the path forward for a historic district at Linfield Center and what the logistics are of that. I think Linda's hopefully going to be here tonight, so I won't brief everybody on that. But a lot of discussion around that and sort of clarifying the process and distilling down what the steps need to be.
Any other board reports, town managers report?
Thank you, John. I can start just with a brief update of the budget meeting that you.
Thank you.
Attend, but we went through, just like we have the other departments, we did DPW, planning and building inspection and cemeteries, and just highlighted the changes throughout. I think the theme of the night, especially when we started hitting the DPW world, was, you know, fuel prices, utility prices, those things are going up. So those were some hefty costs to look at as we move into next year. DPW is the biggest user of fuel and the biggest user of electricity on the water sewer system. And So those are places that we continue to watch, and we had some good discussions, but overall it was a fairly smooth meeting as we continue to review the budgets that have been proposed for each department. We continue to look at them, monitor them, and, you know, as we're starting to put the whole picture together, we'll be bringing forward some things to hopefully bring the costs down a little bit in these times that we know costs are rising. With that, I wanted to start as I normally do with a staff report. We have received a resignation from one of our full-time ground employees. I worked with Jim Taylor, and the town has released a job announcement. We're currently taking applications for this position. And we've also made a conditional offer of employment. I think I told you this last time for our police officer position. We continue to work through that screening process. We're hopeful that that'll continue forward. Last I heard, everything was looking good as we move through that process. But, as you know, we went through a long ordeal since the last meeting with the boil order on the water system. We did a lot of work. DPW and the water department worked really hard as soon as we found out we had a problem. They borrowed some pumps and equipment from Lebanon and from Eastman from their system, and we were able to put 3 chlorine pumps in place, and we started pumping at each of the well sites, and we super chlorinated the tank. Then after that, it kind of became a long waiting game as we let the chlorine do its job. Once it finally got through the system, we're able to get that cleaned up. We will continue working with DES, and we're going to continue chlorinating for a little while just to make sure that we got the problem solved. So we'll be watching that, but I would like to thank our neighbors on both sides for stepping up and bringing equipment and helping us get this situation under. We learned some things as we moved through it. We made some changes to the way we were communicating to the public after the first initial boil order.
And that was well received.
And we will continue looking at that. One thing I did talk to the police chief, and we're getting ready to update our emergency operations plan, and a communication plan like that was not part of our last one. So that's something we will be making sure is written, and we'll have a process moving forward. Just wanted to remind everybody as we're moving into the colder weather that the town does have a winter parking ban. It's in effect from November 1st through April 1st. So vehicles shall not at any time be placed on public or publicly maintained streets, alleys, roadways, or parking areas that are open to the public in a manner that hinders any fashion of maintenance. We're just asking people to just stay off the streets in the area so we can get the snow plows down and get the town cleaned up when we do have storms. Wanted to update the select board. You will be hearing about this a little bit more in the future, but I've met twice now with a small group of people from the town of Enfield who are working on setting up a community nursing program. We've been working to decide what the best way to run this program is. So they came to me not knowing. Some towns run it as a town employee, other towns do it other ways. So we're looking at some different ways to do that. I have them right now looking at some other nonprofits to be fiscal agents, and then we would work closely with them to provide those nursing services. We'll continue to look at how that unfolds and bring that back to the board as we do it. What the community nurse would do would be they would complete home visits and assess current health needs of citizens, give care and management and coordination and other service, work with other services and providers, provide education and support for the clients, families, and the community, complete and fall risk assessments to kind of help us in a way. They said this has helped in other communities with the emergency services not having to go out as much on I've fallen and can't get up type calls when they're out there in the homes doing those assessments. They'll monitor medication and do many other tasks. One thing, some data that they brought forward that was very interesting from the 2020 census was that about 1/5 of Enfield's population is over the age 65. So this appears to be a service that may be very helpful in our community. So the committees continue is committed to continuing to research and develop this program and would like to invite others to join their important project. So if anybody in the public, or if you guys know of anybody that would like to help as we research this issue, they can contact Emily Curtis at the Enfield Police Department for more information. We will continue working with them and come back to you when we have a little bit better plan on what we'd like to do.
So the motivation for this was sort of a perceived need.
Yeah, it's been done in many different places. I know Lebanon partnered with Dartmouth and some other people, and they actually brought a staff member on to do community nursing. And then they work with, they have another program where they have paramedics in the field as well that follow up on calls and patients. And so there's many other small towns around. I know Heartland has one, a few other towns in the area. And so it's looking at how to fill that need to see if, there's people out there. I did ask them to pull data from these other towns to see, what their population is and how many calls they're responding to and what the need is before we move forward too far. And we are hoping that this will be funded through grants and fundraising, but there may be an ask from the town for a little bit of money to help support this. So I didn't get my computer out, which I probably should do, so I'll skip that one for now. And I did want to update the select board that the Whitney Hall roof repair, we finally found a company that was willing to come in. They found 6 damaged pieces of slate. They'll be renting a lift and coming out to fix those in the near future. So we're excited that maybe we'll be able to get that repaired before winter. I did want to update on the tax rate. I sent this out to you guys last week, but the town's tax rate they did increase this year from 2511 to 2575. That includes the town tax rate, county tax rate, and the school. So that's our total municipal tax rate. It's a total increase of 2.49%. The town portion increased 2.95%. The increase overall the increase overall was 64 cents, which relates to $64 a year per 100,000 on your assessment. So that's where we're at on that. Our net valuation from our MS1 did go up about $5 million from 604,000 or 604 million to 609 million. Some numbers behind each of those, but about $5 million is what our valuation is. That's where we're at on tax rate. If you guys have any other questions, I can dig in a little deeper and find that out. I think we expected a little bit. We didn't on that, but we did have the budget. We added some positions, some things changed there last year, but
How'd the final rate compare to the projected rate? Do you remember what the projected rate was? I don't remember off the top of my head.
I don't remember off the top of my head, and I didn't look that up, but I
Yeah,
can
I'd
get
just
that.
be curious, because it's always good to look back and see if our projections are accurate or not. And if not, what did we get wrong? It sounds about right, though.
To follow up, I wanted to give an update on the public safety building in Whitney Hall project. I'd like to keep that updated. We continue to meet with our contractors and architects to determine our final design. Over the last few weeks, I don't know what I updated you guys last, but the architects came to us with 6 different optional, I'm gonna call them envelopes, not floor plans, of what the building could look like and kind of what the flow through the building would look like doing that. We narrowed that down to 2, which was a kind of a 1-story option with a courtyard in the middle, or a 2-story option. We asked Neely and Chase, our contractor, to go back and get us kind of pricing differences between the 2 so we could look at them. The 2-story ended up being quite a bit more expensive, so we narrowed it back down to the 1 floor plan with the courtyard in it, but we asked them last week to go back and redesign that same footprint without the courtyard in the middle and look what that looked like. So, there was some discussion, especially with security concerns on police and those types of things, that having that little open area in the middle would allow some offices to have normal windows and some daylight, which would be nice, but we also know the expense and maintenance that may come with having that. So we've asked them to come back. They're coming back this Tuesday with 2 different floor plans for us to look at. So we're hopeful we're pretty close to narrowing down an envelope and start working on the final floor plans and final design. So that it's pretty exciting. The meetings are a lot more fun. We have something to look at now. As for Whitney Hall, I met last week with USDA and we'll be working on the loan application coming up. If I can get that in the next few weeks, it's due December 16th. If we want to meet a deadline that's coming up that allows us to waive some of the federal requirements coming from COVID, which will help make construction a little bit cheaper if we go with the USDA loan. So I'll be working hard to get that loan application in. Also talked to them about putting in a rural development grant for the public safety building. They're not too excited about giving us money to build a building, but they would be willing to fund lockers and desks and different things that'll go in that building. So I have the police chief working right now with the other EMS and fire chiefs, looking at all the different things they're going to need to outfit that building. And he's working on getting that grant. Hopefully we have that put in by the 16th. At our next meeting, I should have a lot better picture of what we're putting in for, and we'll come to the select board for final approval of that grant. So we'll be continuing to move that forward. That's really where we're at on the public safety building. Quick update, you may have seen that our electronic sign at the community building has been put in the ground. We lined out today. We're going to be digging a trench and the electrician will be doing the final wiring. So that project's moving forward and should be up and running soon. Excited about that. And then Christmas events. I put a list in front of you. There's quite a few events that they've been working on, making sure that we have scheduled through the year, but the town of Enfield will start our holiday season with festivities kicking off this Saturday, November 26th. It's Small Business Saturday. It will be taking place with 15 local vendors from 9 to 4 inside the community building. And at 6 o'clock, we will be lighting the town Christmas tree in Hughes Park. We'll be serving warm drinks, doing some caroling, and having a cookie drive to support the Friends of Mascoma Food Pantry. So please bring some sealed, ready to deliver cookies that they could use to help out the food pantry. After that, on December 3rd, the Fire Departments Association will be collecting gift cards for their holiday drive outside the community building from 9 to 4. And then again, on December 10th, they'll be distributing those cards and items that they collected to local families in outside of the community building on that day. December 9th, the Enfield Outing Club will host their 46th annual Children's Christmas Party. And everyone's welcome to join and get photos with Santas and friends. Refreshments, gifts for every kid. Be sure to check out the full list of events that I gave you, and we will be publishing on our website and different media outlets and posting around town. Or you can go to the Enfield Village Association or Parks and Recreation Facebook pages. So pretty excited to move into our hometown holidays. There's a lot of stuff being planned, a lot of work happening on that side. And I'd like to thank Kevin and Don for the hard work that they've put into this.
Of course, thinking about the La Salette Festival of Lights, what we've all heard about the plans to sell La Salette property.
Again,
Yes,
They're going to be leaving that property. They are working on some different plans, and I don't have anything much more to announce until they get a little bit more solid in what they're going to be doing. But the one other thing that came in today, I sent this to Jim Taylor, but the Lebanon landfills presenting a 3% increase to their tipping fee. That would propose a new rate of $78.80 a ton. This would go in effect next calendar year, and they're also looking at raising punch cards from $15 to $20. They'll be having a public hearing on this on December 7th at 7 p.m. at the Lebanon City Council chambers. So we'll be watching that and participating if needed and budgeting appropriately.
And when is our contract with Casella? Ooh,
We have 6 more months on that, so it'll be halfway through this year. We'll be brainstorming what we're gonna do moving forward with that. A few other towns in the area have put out RFPs in the not so distant past, and they've gotten one response back, which was Casella. So we'll continue looking at that, and we'll determine what we need to do moving forward.
Just thinking on RFPs, and I know we talked about a little bit like the planning side of things. You can always ask for what you want, but if we would structure it such that we have like ideal minimum requirements, would we be able to attract somebody who could say, I can't do all of these punch list items, but I could, and is that a possibility?
You can put out what I would call a true RFP. We usually put out what they call an RFP. I mean, it's, here's what we want. What are you willing to do it for? But a real RFP is kind of a broad based, here's what we're looking for. Tell us what you can do and for how much. And so we could look at something like that to see what comes back. And it may not be exactly what we're used to, but it might be something that we can work with.
Well, there are smaller folks around here and the big, instead of just doing business with the only ones in town.
Yeah, we can talk about a few ways to do that. The other thing we can do is kind of split the two, look at a transfer station contract and a curbside contract is possibly, we can even put them in the same RFP as one, the other, both together. And just see where we can get the best bang for our buck.
Yeah, curbside pickup is still a relatively recent thing in Enfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have 5 minutes before the public hearing. No communications at this time. Under business, Heritage Commission, Linda Jones regarding warrant article for Triangle Historic District in Enfield Center.
Yeah, she's not here yet.
We did have we have a note from the letter from David Walter, the pastor of the Enfield Center Church. And very much in favor of that. And also a letter from C. Harrison Trumbull, president of the Enfield Village Association, very strongly in favor of the local historic district for 3 buildings in Enfield Center. There seems to be a fair amount of support for that. So are we waiting for Linda Jones to
I would
appear?
wait for her. We
Okay.
could maybe move on to the painting. if
The
you want.
painting.
Something that we could discuss pretty quickly. So this came to my attention a couple weeks ago. It had been donated to the town while Steve Schneider was the town manager. He had taken it, worked with the town historian, and it got put in the vault there. We got questioned a few weeks back about where this painting might be. And Marjorie Carr was able to find the painting and put some information together for me on when it was donated to the town and kind of what the plan was at that time. I did learn a little bit of history on it, a little bit from Dolores and a little bit from the art person that I took it to. This is a pre-1920s painting that was done by a traveling artist that came through the area. Painted a picture of the Shaker Bridge. It was purchased by a couple here. I think they resided in town. They were at least here in town when they donated it through Dolores to the town. And so it came to us with the idea that it would get repaired and possibly hung in the new library back in the day when they were trying to get a new library, and that didn't pass. I think that's why it ended up kind of getting stuck in the vault. I did take it to custom framing and art restoration in Claremont. He's a guy I got to know well when I was city manager there, and I was headed to Claremont anyway. So he looked it over, told us that, you know, I told you guys before, but if you look at the edges of the painting kind of protected by the frame, the color's a lot brighter. He said that whole painting should look like that. It's really, really dirty. So if we were to move forward with repairing that, he would clean the painting, repair the crack from the backside using a wax treatment on a film and on the canvas itself. And then he could fill it and make it look like it was pretty much a new painting. And reframe it. The cost of that would be $1,400 for the total restoration of that, including the frame. And wanted to bring it before the select board to see what they wanted to do, if that's something they wanted to entertain, possibly repairing it, or look for maybe another home for it.
Was it donated with repair funds or?
No.
I think, do we have a policy on gifts? Like the school district, you can't give a gift that saddles you with an expense without a process,
Yeah, it came through the select board accepted it back in the day.
knowing they were
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm not sure if it had that little tear in it at the time we accepted it.
I believe it did. There was a picture in there with it and you
Okay.
could see the tear that was there, so.
Just for clarification, it was donated to the town, not to the library, because that would be.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
donated to the town
Yeah.
with the.
Yeah,
intention
no,
of
I just
possibly
wanted to-
painting it in the
right.
library.
It's not a library board
No,
question, it's
Right, and so the Board of Selectmen did in fact accept it at that time.
Do we have minutes indicate where did they say they would do a repair?
I don't have the minutes with me. Look into that a
I
little bit more,
I
but
don't believe there was any, from my flawed recollections, I don't believe there's any discussion of a repair.
I have another place you can quote in North Adams. We used them to help us, when we pulled the mural at the high school, they did the cleaning advice on it. And I'm not saying that just anyone should do this, but it's, an art, restorer.
Yeah.
Possibility.
if it's something that we want to do. We
I
can
don't know.
also talk to the Shaker Museum or somebody to see if somebody else would want to. But that would be a select board decision on what we want.
Yeah, I don't know what we do with it if we decide not to, to unaccept it. I believe the person's dead.
Yes, so the family that donated taxes, so. It's ours now, we need to decide how we want to do it.
And from my recollections, Dolores got involved because they wanted someone, they didn't want it to go to the museum, if I understand.
That has changed. Marjorie talked
Okay.
to her not too long before she
Okay.
passed, and I'm under the understanding that that wasn't acceptable way to deal with this.
Maybe that's something we should look into before we,
I mean, to me, a museum, art belongs more in a museum. I worry, right? Like, I'm not saying against us or previous boards or anyone, but you have boards, right? Like somebody thinks it's important and public art's important and then the next one doesn't. We don't have a distinct gift policy that says after 25 years it goes in the dumpster. And that's really how public entities usually work. So I just get nervous, like, you can't find a future board, and that's how we're sitting here today, right?
it is sort of part of our logo.
Oh. Which is the seal, but I think we're looking at potentially moving.
Yeah,
it
we'll be
from-
having,
Yeah, we'll have the seal and
It's a very nice painting. It would be very nice to have it home. I think the only real question is the expense. You know, how would that be paid for if we wanted to move forward? I haven't considered that before. And there may well be people who would be interested in supporting something like that outside of tax revenue as well. There's a number of paths we can go down. You know, if there was a group that, you know, felt it was valuable and willing to raise money, that, you know, that's the kind of thing. So we're gonna have to decorate the new building in some form or fashion. But certainly, at this point, given all of the expenses going into the building, committing money, you know, I mean, I know you're not asking us to do anything today, but, you know, committing additional funds today is not, you know, without really thinking it through, is certainly not a great feeling. But I do think it's a neat piece of history. It'd be cool to have hung somewhere, in the building, and there may be creative avenues for figuring that out that aren't, expensive, the town in general. Or, the museum may have a similar thing, because the other piece is like, if they don't have a way to restore it, then they're in the same spot we're in right now. Financially.
Well, I do like to come back to the fact that the Board of Selectmen of the town of Enfield have in fact accepted
Right.
this
Yeah,
in good faith from
Yeah.
both parties.
Right.
And so now what are we gonna do? We're gonna
Right.
say, well, it looks like it might cost a little bit of money, and so forget it, let's go back on our word. I don't like that. So I think that at the very least, we should, I think we should just go ahead and spend $1,400,
That's my,
which is not a huge sum of money in the general scheme of things.
I guess I'd feel more comfortable if we did a public house before we just allocate public funds. Personally, I'm a big fan of public art, but we have a lot of expenses right now, and in every board position I've held, I felt pretty strongly about not finding future boards, so, unfortunately, they didn't follow through and take care of the whole process, and now we're kind of stuck with it. Look, we have this with water and sewer too, right? And we're constantly racking in these, whoops, this didn't get done. So how do we, I guess at the very least, that coming out of this, I want to get policy. I want to get policy and I want to learn from all of it. But I'd be interested to see if there's something, we could be about getting a donation board, where it gets a nice plaque explaining the donation and where it says restored thanks to a generous blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's more my.
I want to make a motion.
need a motion to just direct further. It sounds like we want to look for ways for the town to restore it to a displayable state. I don't know the proper terminology here. And sounds like we want to be a little more, at least attempt to be more creative than just throw it, than putting it in the budget immediately.
And I think that it should be done with the intent that it honors the donation, which was that it was to be a piece of public art, regardless of location, right?
Yeah.
I think we have to honor the intent, which was the public art component.
Right. So it sounds like the quote that was, the initial quote was to get it to that state, clean it, do a little bit of repair, reframe it, make it displayable, and then, that's sort of the right level of care that it's deserving.
And I think, I'm not down on the $1,400.
Yeah, no,
I think it's a lot of work.
I'm not necessarily down on it either. I just want to think it through and, is this, are there creative ways to get that money? Because there's certainly a lot of people who are interested in public art displays and who are going to be interested in the new library building. But I would suggest we don't tie it to the library. Maybe it was tied to the library originally.
I don't think it.
No,
was.
it's
I think
just-
That was just the thought of where
Yeah.
it might be able to go.
Because I think that
That's the
sounds
only
like, it was-
place we could think of.
yeah, but that sounds like that was part of the
And it was part of the.
flaw was that we said, oh, well, we'll deal with it when we deal with the library. And since that changed, it didn't get dealt with.
Well, I believe it was coming to us at the time,
Yeah.
when it was going to a Warren article to build
Right.
the library.
No, I
Pass.
fully understand it, but then it was never revisited and said, oh, we need to rethink. So I don't think we should necessarily tie it with a specific location, but Kate's probably right that we should think of it just as a public art that will be displayed somewhere in town.
I think regardless of what we do
Right.
in interim, let's get it properly wrapped. Because you can wrap it in archival paper at least too. Yeah, we don't need to make it worse than it is. Wrapped and labeled, so
So are we asking the town manager to take this to be restored?
I think we have to do more research first, but
Into what?
I think in order, I mean, so we've got one quote, we could, I think probably, I don't remember exactly what our purchasing policy is, but what's the dollar amount? We need more than one quote for this dollar amount? No, so you could just go with it, but yeah,
If we have someone, if you know someone, we can
we can ask.
try that.
Yeah, I don't know if they're
I
about,
wouldn't
but it's
wanna
just,
spend a lot of time researching places.
no, I think if you snapped a photo and sent it down and said, what would a range be or something? We could
I
do
think
that
you'd have
now.
to take it to wherever it was, because they really had
Probably
to
not
look
worth
it
it.
over on both sides to
Okay.
see how they would fix it.
We'll probably get an opinion. It's crazy. I'm not saying it's crazy. I think she'll say right away, like, good deal, not good deal.
Mhm.
So now we're thinking of getting a second opinion,
Which is a second quote.
a second
Yeah.
quote.
I don't know if we'll
Really?
get a quote or not, but we can,
Yeah, we can take a couple pictures and send it off and see, like she said, is that $1,400 in the ballpark of where it should be?
Okay,
So are there easy fundraising avenues, or is it really just easiest to just, pay for it out of the budget?
About all we could do is ask to see if anybody would like to donate to help offset the cost, but. But we also have it in the budget if we wanted to just get it done.
well, I guess I've made my opinion reasonably clear that I think we should just get it done, spend the money, hang it up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, it's probably not the level of effort to find, identify grants and locate stuff, so. I'll go ahead and make a motion to direct the town manager to repair and restore, clean, repair and restore the painting to displayable, to an appropriate level for up to $1,400.
There a second? I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Two in favor, one opposed. Thank you very much. So now we have I'm gonna have to answer this. It's from the hospital. Hello?
Break.
Yep, right.
Hello.
I'm down for now.
Right about that. I have a hip replacement coming up.
Ooh, that sounds important.
Deposits and withdrawals from trust and reserve funds.
So Lisa did a great job putting this report together. We both are gonna be here today. So I don't know if you want me to read through each one of these. On the first page there, the top four, I guess I can, $500,768 to the CIP Capital Reserve Fund as approved at the 2022 town meeting. $30,000 to the Employee and Retirement Benefit Trust Fund from assigned balance as approved at the 2022 town meeting. $4,050 for revenue from the sale of cemetery lots to the Cemetery Maintenance Trust Fund. This was a 2018 approval at town meeting. $12 for revenue received from the sale of trail maps. The town manager has authorization to do this. $647.66, which is the difference between revenues received and donations and expenses this year to date. I believe that was for Old Home Days. The town manager is authorized to make that deposit. And then the next one, $25,000 each to the municipal water system and the municipal sewer system from capital reserve or to the capital reserve funds. These funds are included in the 22 budget for this purpose. These deposits do require a vote of the select board. Do you guys want to do that motion now, or do you want to do?
Let's do it now while it's right in front of us.
I'll move to deposit $25,000 in the municipal water system.
Hold on, we're in a public hearing.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Nope.
sorry about that. I move that we open a public hearing at this point.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now your motion, I guess.
So,
We'll have discussion first or?
yeah, I
we
mean,
vote
that's,
after.
let's do it that way. Those first 4 or 5, we can talk about if anybody has anything to talk about. Those are approved at town meeting and authorize me to move those smaller sums, the $25,000 of the select boards to move them. Authorize at town meeting.
Dan, any comments?
It's tough being the pressure of being the public.
See you later.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, it's approved.
I think Celia has it.
Stuff like that.
Sealy, you got a comment?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to check on something.
Can't quite hear you yet.
I hear. it.
I wanted to check, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just wanted to check on if we had we took $500,000 we voted on, right? These the smaller ones for the gas pumps and the 3 other ones. Now, we didn't ask for that, did we? In the warrant articles for the CIP? Don't we have to ask for that to be voted on?
No, if it comes from cash, then the select board has authority to spend the money. If it's a loan, then it has to go to town meeting.
Why? Okay. We weren't borrowing that 500,000, right?
No, that $500,000 is coming from the tax rate to go to the CIP fund as approved at town meeting.
Okay, so if they can, I just don't understand why you're taking and purchasing those other things.
I think she's talking to somebody else.
No, if you're trying to talk to us, we can't hear it now.
I didn't understand why you could purchase the compactor and the gas pump and et cetera.
You're breaking up a lot, Sealy. Can't quite understand you.
Okay. I didn't. Can you hear me now? Better?
Yes?
I didn't understand how you could purchase without the clarification at a town meeting that purchase the compactor, fixing the gas pumps, etc. Without that mentioned in the vote for the CIP program. Can you do that?
It was in CIP. We didn't take a loan on that.
We took it as cash.
We took it as cash, so that doesn't need to be voted at town meeting.
But it was, well,
Yeah, and we have the plan is well documented.
the plan was given out at time.
Okay. I still don't get it. But okay. Check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sealy. Make your motion now?
I think, don't we have to close the public hearing and then?
We have to close each one?
Make it one big.
Either that or we can just continue through.
Okay,
Stop every once in a while to see if people have questions.
All right.
Probably the best thing. Since there's so much of it.
Yeah.
So the capital improvement program, capital reserve fund, used to pay debt service, town meeting approved vehicles, equipment, and infrastructure purchases. As agents to expend, the select board also has authority to withdraw funds for cash purchases for the same purpose. CIP committee prepares a 6-year plan. Proposed in this plan is the following: the town meeting approved projects for which the debt service payments are being reimbursed by CIP, CRF include 2013 Jones Hill Road construction, capital leases for 2014, 16, 17, 18, and 19, Boys Camp Road Bridge replacement and boat launch project in 2016, 2019 George Hill Road improvements, 2021 fire rescue pumper, 2021 cruiser, and 2021 DPW truck. No select board vote will be required on these because they were approved at town meeting. Well, I could do the next part. However, due to a typographical error which carried through the budget process and was duly adopted at town meeting, the budget for interest on the long-term debt in the 2022 general fund budget was $15,070 when it should have been $1,507. Based on lat debt service invoice in 2022, that will leave us with a remaining budget of $13,620.79. We recommend reducing the CIP CRF reimbursement requested by the actual amount unexpended. Ask for questions before we move on.
are there questions from either those listening electronically or those present physically?
The only one I would have is, would we be better off taking the 13,000 and putting it against principal or something? Either way,
I would say we do this now, and if we want to do that in the next year's budget, we can do that.
yeah.
Do we want to make these motions now?
Public hearing.
Well, we have more.
Yeah,
we have more
I think there's still more to come.
Yeah, actually, we're almost done. If we do another little section, we can take more public comment and do all the motions. So projects for with a cash withdrawal is requested from the CIP. 11,741 for the Public Works gas pump computer system upgrade. 47,799 for the community building roof. $8,785 for replacement of the furnace at the Enfield Fire Station. $26,935 for the transfer station zero sort compactor. $6,792 for police fire AED replacements. $6,401.51 for the ambulance radio. Up to $50,000 for fire department forestry truck conversion. $34,158.87 has been expended to date. As invoices arrive, they will be added to the requested line from the trustee of trust funds until their deadline for the 2022 reimbursement. That's why we're asking for a motion of up to $50,000 to allow us to continue to pay off any bills that come in. The town manager is authorized to approve deposits and withdrawals from the Mascoma Lakeside Park Trust Fund and the Employee Retirement Benefit Trust Fund. But due to the amount being withdrawn from the Employee Retirement Benefit Trust Fund, we thought it would be best to just have a select board vote on that. And then your motions are listed below.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, as CIP, all of those, we were asking for cash because we really didn't want to do any more. Loans out there. The same thing is going to be projected for this year, where we're not looking to have loans, everything's going to be cash. So all we'll be looking for in the warrant article will be putting money into the fund.
And I think that's important to reiterate. That's where the confusion came with Sealy, that
Right.
the articles that from CIP that have to go in front of the voters are anytime we're taking a loan against the CIP to do those funds. Any cash expenditures out of CIP is a select board decision that does not go as a warrant article because the select board are agents to expect.
But it still will be explained at town meeting, everything that we've approved for the CIP program
Yes.
to be purchased, even though it is purchased in cash.
Okay. We need to come out of public hearing now?
If there's no other comments.
Don't seem to.
I'll make a motion to come out of the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. We have a number of motions that need to be made.
We'll start with the first one. So
Okay,
make a motion to move to deposit $25,000 in the municipal water system capital reserve fund from the water department budget and to deposit $25,000 in the municipal sewer system capital reserve fund from the sewer department budget.
all in favor? Oh, second. For a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
The next one, make a motion to move to reduce the requested reimbursement from the CIP capital reserve fund for debt service payments by the unexpended budget amount of the general fund interest on long-term debt.
Is there a second?
seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
And third one, make a motion to move to withdraw from the CIP capital reserve fund $11,741 for the Public Works gas pump computer system upgrade, $47,799 for the community building roof replacement, $8,785 for the Enfield Center Fire Station furnace, $26,935 for the transfer station zero sort compactor, $6,792 for police and fire AED replacements, $6,401.51 for an ambulance radio, up to $50,000 for the fire department forestry truck conversion.
That would be, I would stop there.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
And
Aye.
then you wanted a motion for the
I would
last
just
one.
make a motion.
Move to withdraw $8,971.52 from the employee and retiree benefit trust fund for expenses which meet the purpose of this fund, including employee HRA expenses and retiree benefit compensation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, I don't see Linda Jones. Is she-
Yeah, when we get to the end of the meeting, if she's not here, we can have a short discussion.
Lifting of mandatory water restrictions.
So all we're doing there is, a few months ago, the board authorized putting in place some mandatory water restrictions.
Mhm.
There are not a lot of people outside washing their cars and doing those types of things right now, so we thought it would be prudent to go ahead and lift that water restriction at this time. And we can readdress it next summer if needed.
Before I make a motion. So I'm just wondering if this shouldn't, in the future, have a vehicle somewhat like during COVID where we follow so that, could it come and go?
We can work on a policy.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that way you don't have to rely, I'm not saying that we can't do it together, but I think we should be supportive of preserving our water, and having it be a little more sustainable, like if there's a map that we can rely on typically from the state, we should. I'd make a motion to move to lift the mandatory water restrictions enacted on September 12th, 2022 for all Enfield municipal water customers effective immediately.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. acceptance of a $2,000 donation to Mascoma Lakeside Park.
Move acceptance of thanks.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Second issue property tax warrant confirmation.
Is that something where we can just make a motion to reaffirm our
I
individual
think so. I
approval?
think you
Okay.
technically have to have a motion.
I would make a motion that we reaffirm our individual approval of the second issue property tax warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Administrative items, none at this time. Public comments?
I guess my only public comment tonight, because you just lifted the water restriction, is that we maybe talk to Lebanon every once in a while. I don't believe that, recreation should have as high a power as water for people to drink. But when Grafton Pond drained down to nothing and Crystal Lake people in their boats are 15 feet out because Lebanon refuses to put in water restrictions because it's their drinking water, I think maybe we should be talking to towns like Lebanon saying, when we put in a water restriction, because we're trying to save water and you're basically dropping the dam down in order to get more water, maybe you should be putting in a water restriction at the same time.
They actually put a water restriction in a long time before we did.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay.
So, there's people are paying huge taxes. There's no tax rebate when they rob you of your lake frontage.
Right.
That's it. I always wonder, like, we claim that we have this wonderful lake frontage, then we drain it down and they get charged the same amount because Lebanon doesn't have a well system. And we have to pay our well system and no one feels bad for us.
Right.
I can say they're working on that. The Crystal Lake issue was not due to the drawing down. There was a dam problem when we had a storm and washed a bunch of debris in between Grafton Pond and Crystal Lake, and it drained faster than it was going. They did draw Grafton Pond for Lebanon drinking water this year. But it is something that we need to be cognizant of. Lebanon is looking at drilling some wells. over
Yeah,
there.
I'm amazed that they're still drinking water from Mascoma Lake.
Yeah.
It's not part of my health program. So, yeah, I have read a little bit about, they think they have at least one place that will have astronomical water. So, get moving on that.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's an interesting permit by notification shoreland application.
I think there are people online who have their hands raised.
Oh. Well, yes. Hi there. Sharon Beaufet.
Hello, I have a concern I wanted to bring to your attention, but I don't know, it's not about the water. It's about something else. So I can wait till the very end.
No, this is time for public comments.
Okay, so when a person is in a car at the intersection of Main Street and Route 4, trying to either cross to, excuse me, Maple Street or to turn left onto Route 4, it's really hard to see cars coming down the hill from the direction of Mickey's on Route 4 or the former Mickey's. And they are coming down pretty fast. So when you cross that intersection, I zoom across because you can get to the middle of the intersection and a car's coming and you have to get out of the way. So this has been existing. Typically, it was hard to do because the church has a sign there for their activities, and I would look underneath the sign to try to glance up the road to see whether there was a car coming to decide whether to go or not in going through the intersection. Unfortunately, as much as I support the new and welcome to Enfield sign, that there's no sight visibility where that sign is. It's taken any small amount of visibility away that we had. And I'm really concerned that surely there can be another place that that sign can be put that can restore the limited availability that we had, so we can try to use that intersection safely until something more is done several years down the road. Comments, please?
I haven't had occasion to use that intersection lately, so I can't say.
I
went
go
there
through it every
today.
day.
I went through there today. I did receive Sharon's email a couple days ago and wanted to research that myself. And it may have caused a little bit more in that area, and I'll talk to the police chief, but there's trees and all kinds of things that you'd be looking through to look anyway. So we'll continue to look at that, but removing that'll be very difficult. It is something that we can look at, but it's not something that's easily moved. It's sunk down in the ground and concreted in place.
I've had occasion to drive through there a lot recently, in two different vehicles. One is a mid-size SUV and one is a full-size van, that sits up quite high and didn't have, now I will say that intersection is a state nightmare that we've long complained about, so there's that issue as well. But I didn't see that it was less visible for me. So I don't know if it has to do a little bit with the height and where you lie, but I think, it is definitely a challenging percent. Be a great roundabout spot.
I hope that you can look into it further, because I have a Subaru and I go through that intersection every day, and it's a challenge every day. And it's really, I think sight lines for roads are usually premium for safety. And that's my concern. Thank you about that. And then I also, can I make a suggestion about a different topic?
Certainly.
Okay, so I think it was in your minutes, maybe from your last meeting, that there was discussion about the parks and public buildings and requirements for using them, and, contracts and the wording. I'm just would ask you, when it comes time to rent out Lakeside Park, because that's a public park, you're well aware, I'm sure, that there are noise ordinances related to that park and also a no alcohol policy. I think that might be a great park for someone to have a wedding. I don't think if someone's going to sign a contract to have the wedding dinner celebration there, usually alcohol and noise, music and so on goes hand in hand with those types of things. And I would just ask you to please not just cite those ordinances in the contract, but specify them in writing, so that the person who's signing that contract is fully aware of what they're being requested to do there. And so that, if there was somebody who, if there was a problem with the noise, if there was a problem with alcohol, I would hate to have to interact with someone who's enjoying their wedding, or have any of the neighbors have to interact with that person who was under the misconception of what they were required to do in renting space in a public park. So I'm just asking you to put that wording in so that things can be fully understood from the beginning. And certainly it's a beautiful spot for people to enjoy going forward. Thank you.
And we did have a request this year of someone to come there, not for a wedding, but for a different event. And we made sure they knew there was no alcohol allowed in town parks, and they actually decided to go somewhere else. That is something that would be
We don't seem to enforce that well. I mean, look at I'm gonna say, we have the fair. I don't know how many alcohol containers I saw on the ground, like behind the bank area, and people walk by me with alcohol. Including volunteers who've been backed over the years. So I get a lot of complaints over the years, and I find it a little shocking that, like, it's like, do as I say, not as I do. I don't know. Do we give special dispensation to some groups, or we just ignore it?
No, but if we know about it, we should be enforcing it.
I agree.
I mean, you're looking at your public safety people are right there. So, I don't think we have a noise ordinance, though. Do we have particular park rules?
No.
Okay.
There is a noise ordinance. It's if you look in your ordinances, there is one.
It doesn't
It's
apply
like
to parks.
it's like a politician.
Electioneering.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Alice Kennedy, you have your hand up?
I do, thank you. My comment is back to the fun water topic. So first I just wanted to thank Sharon for bringing up the intersection of Route 4 and Main Street. I know that it's like the state's problem or whatever, but we're gonna be the ones dealing with the consequences of like no traffic calming measures there and how heart pounding it is to get across Route 4 there on foot or in your car. But that is not my point for this evening. I looked through all of the information that was given out about the boil water order, and it was really helpful and it was very general. And I was wondering if there could be any kind of educational something for people who are on municipal water to kind of understand where our water comes from and how it gets from there to our home. And then like any sort of information about the frequency of testing and who does the testing and how old the systems are, and maybe like a frequency of boil water orders over the past some period of time. I just realized that when this boil notice came out, the longer it went on, the more I realized that I really didn't know very much about my own water source. So that was basically what I just wanted to ask.
Thank you.
The one thing I can tell you is it was about 20 years ago, the last time we had to chlorinate the system or introduce a boil water order. So it was a little bit of our problem when we started. We had some chlorine pumps that we could use, but after they sit on the shelf for 20 years, the seals go out and nothing seems to work in them. So it's a good problem to have, and we were able to.
No, we're all set for
To
the,
source some. We did buy one pump, I believe, moving forward, but you know, we'll work with our neighbors to, hopefully we don't have to do that for
Okay.
another 20 years, but.
So like,
That's
a great example, Ed, thank you. Like, I don't even know what that means. We'll work with our neighbors to make sure that doesn't happen. Like, I don't know our relationship with Lebanon or what the comment by the member of the public who is there. He was making some reference to a relationship with Lebanon and drilling wells, et cetera. And then there were some other candid comments about like, I can't believe we even still drink water out of Mascoma. And like, I think that there's just a history here that I don't understand. And I just would appreciate if there was like, I mean, I'm just working in an educational vacuum. Like, I just don't know. I'm new to the town. I only moved here in 2018. So if there are opportunities for me to educate myself on like the history and condition of this stuff and relationships and the politics of it, I'd really appreciate it.
thank you.
But we can
We'll do our
definitely,
best.
we can definitely put some information together to get out to the general public, but I would recommend that you give me a call or Jim Taylor, because I think the education you're looking for will be a lot more in depth than what the general public might want, but it would be good to give a general idea of how our water system works and what we do to keep it clean, so.
Thank you.
So do we know anything further about this, project on Bridge Street? The project description,
I have the shoreline permit here
yeah,
completely, if someone wants to look through it. I don't have the information myself. I haven't
yeah,
gone through that.
apparently it's three properties being sold as one or developed as one. Or sold for well over $1 million. I think that's true. That surprised me. Okay, I'll have to take a walk sometime. I think that's it. Anyone think of anything else?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Do we want to talk at all about the historical triangle?
We can talk a little bit of that. She was gonna be coming to you. I
Yeah.
was gonna talk to Linda a little bit. I did once before, but I'll talk to her again. This could definitely be discussed at the select board level, but this would be a change to zoning to put in a historic district. So it truly needs to go in front of the planning board as a warrant article for town meeting.
Planning board first, or us first, or doesn't matter?
Well, it's gonna be a planning board.
Yeah.
It's a zoning,
Unless it's petitioned.
the first step is a zoning change.
Yeah,
So zoning changes go through planning board.
okay.
So that's
Or it
part
can
of the,
be-
yeah, right.
It can be by petition.
Yes, it can be by position, but that was part of the clarification the Heritage Commission's going through is what are the technical steps that need to go forward? And the first one is a zoning article in front of the
Yeah.
public at town meeting.
It's best to do that.
Yeah.
Go to the planning board, move it forward. I mean, the Heritage Commission technically is a land use board that works under the purview of the planning board.
And so
To get
what are the,
So
what are the implications
December
of
15th.
this in terms of usage of
This,
property?
um,
I mean, are we gonna be implementing, they're asking us to implement rules and tell people they can't do stuff with their property or?
so there's three properties in the proposed district. The townhouse owned by the town. The church owned by the church, and then the schoolhouse itself, which I think is, I forget who owns that, the Historical Society that actually owns that. So there's three properties that the overlay district would apply to. They'd have to get the overlay approved, then zoning requirements would have to be approved. And then, once you do that with a local historic district, you can take the next step, but those both have to be town votes to make any zoning changes. But those changes would only apply to the three specific properties within the
Oh,
district.
real,
They
okay,
would not apply anywhere else in town.
to any abutters or anything like
Correct,
that?
which is part of why they made sure to have a letter of support from the church itself, because they have been talking with the church.
Yeah.
And of course, the long-term intent of all of it is to put us in a position to qualify for additional grants. So the New Hampshire Division of Historic Resources, which gets money through the Department of Interior, there's basically the program, 10% of their annual historic preservation funds are dedicated to these types of things. So it does open up new avenues for grants, if we choose to go down this path. And if you look at the towns across the state that have gone down it, it's actually kind of interesting. It's mostly the larger communities with more resources have chosen to go this path, which we can't say outright, but it kind of strikes me as like the communities with resources are using those resources to leverage themselves to get this additional 10% of money. So it makes me intrigued of like, hey, this might be a path to actually get some money to restore a building that certainly the building group, the MFAC looked at, so, well, beautiful building, be good piece of town history, well worth preserving, but it's not a priority as far as tax money or whatever at this point. But anyway, without Linda, that's sort of the gist of it. But it really, it starts with the zoning change, which is a planning board issue, not a select board issue.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. I think we have
I will
a
second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for the public.
They need to come pretty soon, though.
Yeah.
There is a.
Yeah.
There is a calendar.
Right,
Yeah,
That says,
they have to be to the planning board by December 15th.
right. I think their meeting is the 14th.
Okay.
I think your meeting is the planning board meeting is the 14th. Yeah.
That's the last time they can.
And they
show
have
up.
to have it in the packet, whether it's the week or.
When's our next select board
And
meeting?
if they want to come back to this next, or the select board, they can come to the next.
be there.
Yeah, for six. 6th of December.
I mean, Monday is the fifth. I don't know if it's a Monday or Tuesday. I'm not.
I'm good then.
I have it on the fifth.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. You're gonna be out of town.
I went for surgery on the 14th.
My only question on that three lots is that spot zoning? But you can't call them one, you can't call it an area that you're zoning. You're actually spot zoning 3 lots,
Yeah, there's,
because there aren't abutting in between, so.
yeah,
On
no,
its own.
so they looked at it for local historic districts and they do allow non-contiguous districts.
Right.
So the state has allowed that in the past. So, yeah, it's a,
But they frown upon.
yeah, I'm just saying what,
Right,
you know,
right,
what's been found.
right.